This is the Comics Alternative, on location and talking with creators at HeroesCon 2017, Part 2. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative on location. I'm Derek, and this is our second of 2 episodes devoted to interviews conducted on the floor of Artist Alley at HeroesCon 2017. But before we get to those conversations, I want to let all of you know that this episode of the Comics Alternative is brought to you by those wonderful folks at Discount Comic Book Service. Go to their website, dcbservice.com, for all of your comics pre-ordering needs. There, you're going to find all DC, Marvel, Image, and Dark Horse titles at 40% off of the cover price if you pre-order. For all of the other publishers, you'll find that those discounts can be 20 to 35% off of the cover price. And every single month, you're going to find some wonderful specials. Sometimes those specials could be as much as 45% off of the cover price. Sometimes 50% off of the cover. But every now and again, you can find discounts that are more impressive than that. And as we always say on these sponsor bits, you can't go wrong with the bundles that DCB Service has. And this month they have a variety of bundles by the usual, such as Valiant and Marvel. But they have a lot of bundles from DC. You will find a variety of DC Rebirth bundles. There are also DC Kids bundles, DC New Miniseries bundles. There are bundles for DC Young Animal Series, Vertigo bundle, and the Kirby Specials bundle. So it's a DC bundle extravaganza this month at Discount Comic Book Service. You gotta check them out at dcbservice.com. Go there for all of your comics pre-ordering needs. And after you do get your comics there, please be sure to get in touch with them, send them an email, and tell them that the 2 guys with PhDs sent you. Yesterday, we released the first of our 2 episodes of short interviews conducted on the floor of Artist Alley at HeroesCon this year. And today we have the second. So on this episode, you will hear conversations with Fabian Rangel Jr., Charles Forsman, Darren Neely, Chris Sheridan, Shawn Pryor, and Alison Sampson. Andy and I had a great time talking with these creators, so let's go ahead and listen to those conversations now. I'm here with Fabian Rangel Jr. We talked about his Helena Crash, issue number 1, several weeks ago, and now I'm here at HeroesCon talking with the man in person. Fabian, how have things been here in Charlotte?
Oh, it's insane. I'm still getting used to people knowing who I am or like caring, and so yeah, it's been really cool to have people coming up, with books that they bought at their stores and having me sign them. It feels really cool.
And this has been kind of a big year for you with quite a number of titles coming out. I know Helena Crasher, at issue 3 or 4 now?
Number 4 just came out last Wednesday. This Wednesday it just passed, so it's done now, yeah.
Yeah, and now you have Namwolf.
Yeah, Namwolf is a book I'm doing with Albatross, which is Eric Powell, his publisher. And yeah, we've been doing Namwolf for a couple months now, and it's going really well. It's actually the best-selling book I've done so far, so...
So tell us about the premise of Namwolf.
I'm hoping that it's pretty self-explanatory, but no, it's about this kid that gets drafted into Vietnam, and as soon as he's there, he finds out that he's actually a werewolf. It's like Hereditary, like in Teen Wolf, and yeah, so it's about the good and the bad things that would result from that. So it's pretty much just like a monster book, set in a war. It's like a weird war monster book.
Yeah, I thought it was a fabulous premise when I first saw the solicit because, I mean, I'm familiar with, 68 that Image has put out for a number of years. But that's zombies. Everybody does zombies. This is different. This is a different take on the Vietnam War.
Yeah, well, werewolves are my favorite monster. And actually, so this is Logan. He's behind me. But we met here a few years ago at this con, and we were talking about movies that we liked. And I could have swore I heard him say American Werewolf in Vietnam. And I was like, did you say American Werewolf in Vietnam? And he's like, no, American Werewolf in London, you know? And I'm like, dude, I thought you said American Werewolf in Vietnam. And he's like, you know, that'd be pretty cool.
So a misunderstanding is the genesis of this project.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of loud in here, so you don't really hear correctly sometimes. But yeah, like a couple of days later, I couldn't get that thought out of my head, like a werewolf in Vietnam. And I had to write the subject, you know, to email him about it. And I was like, Nam Wolf. And yeah, that was it.
So you said the response has been really bigger than anything you've done. Tell me about the response that you've gotten, the reaction.
So yeah, we it's the first issue sold out and we're doing a second printing, and you know, just knowing what the numbers are, it's, you know, it's outsold anything I've ever done by a pretty large margin, and I think it's just, you know, the stamp of approval from Eric, you know, like knowing that we're doing, like, well, when a retailer sees that it's Eric doing it, and they're like, oh, well, this must be really good if Eric Powell's putting his, you know, time and money into it. So, but, you know, then also it's an easy sell, you know, the name itself, you know, people automatically like, okay, I'm on board. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. So your other title, Hell in a Crash, I mean, where did this idea come?
This is also, like, most of the work I do now is influenced by the artists that I want to collaborate with. I see, like, a drawing that they did, and I'm like, oh, man, it'd be cool if there was this whole other story. And so I'd seen Warwick drawing, like, delivery trucks and stuff, and he did, like, a coffee delivery truck. And I was like, oh, we should do a book about a woman who delivers coffee, and maybe coffee's, like, illegal, and so it's, like, a big deal, and it's all dangerous, and there's criminals and gangsters fighting over coffee. And so that was pretty much that one.
Yeah, and when we reviewed it, we were impressed by that interesting premise that coffee is the thing that really gets things going.
Yeah. You know, that's a very true statement. You know, in more ways than one. But yeah, we you know, it was just you know, we needed a MacGuffin, and that was like the you know, I love coffee. I drink coffee every day. I drink coffee to write comics, and so it was definitely like, oh, it'd be funny to have it be like almost like a drug and have it be illegal. And then mostly I wanted to set in the future, because the future in this world is very much influenced by, like, you know, the future in, like, Samurai Jack or, like, Star Wars, even though Star Wars takes place in a galaxy, you know, a long time ago. But you know what I mean?
Far away?
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, like, it's influenced by, like, Star Wars and Samurai Jack, to where you see all these, like, kind of like mutants and monsters and robots kind of just walking around, you know, mingling with, you know, humans. Because I wanted to do that because I knew Warwick would just, like, destroy it on design work. I mean, his design work is insane, and all the cool little background characters, just really cool.
And you have a book that just came out, and the publisher on this is Ad House. This is Tarantula, and you're doing this with Alexis Zirit and Evelyn Rangel.
Yeah. So Evelyn, my wife, she lettered this book, and Alexis, you know, Alexis and I did Space Riders for Black Mask back in 2015. We are now doing a second volume of Space Riders, and in between those two volumes of Space Riders, we did Tarantula, and like you mentioned, Ad House put it out. And I'm really proud of it. It's very handsome. It smells good. They did a really good job on this book.
Yeah. So what is the premise of Tarantula?
So Tarantula is kind of like our version of like almost like the pulp comics of like the 30s, but, you know, mixed with like kind of weird psychedelic stuff from the 60s and 70s. So it's just like a psychedelic pulp book. Tarantula, she's kind of like a vigilante, and she's connected to this network of, like, spies and stuff, and she herself is a spy. And she's got all these cool, like, James Bond, like, gadgets and stuff. They're all, like, spider-themed. It's just, like, they're just cool toys to play with. The whole, every book I do is just, like, I'm making new toys to play with.
Well, you know, this is a toy that we're really wanting to discuss on an upcoming episode of the Comics Alternative. So I really do thank you for talking with me about that, and then your other work as well. And if people want to find out what's going on in the life of Fabian Rangel Jr., where do they go? What's your website?
Really, I don't, like, have a website. People can just follow me on Facebook or Twitter.
Okay, the best way to find out about you.
Yeah, every day I'm like, this is what I got coming up, or, you know, this, you know, I got a convention this weekend, or, you know, this book is in previews, and yeah, or this book just got picked up. Like, I'm always talking about my comic book stuff on there.
Okay, well, thanks for the time, and good luck with the increased attention you're getting for your comics.
Thank you. Keep an eye on it because there's something really cool coming up that I get to announce next week.
So no tidbits now, just wait till next week?
I can say that it's a license thing, so it'll be like my first thing that's like, not creator-owned, that's like kind of longer. I've worked on some licensed stuff like short stories here and there, but this is like, multiple issues, so I'm really excited.
Okay, well, I'll keep my ears open for it.
Cool, thank you.
I'm sitting here with Charles Forsman. He is the author most recently of Revenger in the Fog. That trade came out, I believe it was just last month, right?
Yeah. Just, a few months ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, recently we reviewed Revenger in the Fog on the Comics Alternative. Andy and I really loved it. And, obviously one of the big draws is your obvious love for 70s and 80s action films. And television. So I wonder if you could speak a bit about those various programs, maybe particular series that you grew up watching that led to Revenger.
Yeah, Revenger started as I was just feeling kind of bored. That's not a great word, but I was kind of just feeling like I was doing the same kind of comics over and over again. So I became friends with Michelle Fife as Copra and Ben Mara. And the stuff that they were doing was it was exciting me in ways that like Chester Brown used to excite me. And it just started to make me like kind of go back to like movies I saw as a kid and the comics I read then, like movies like Cobra, Sylvester Stallone, and also, like you said, like 70s and 80s revenge flicks. Like Ms. 45 is a big influence on me. The Abel Ferrara movie, and just action. I just wanted to do something action because it was like so far away from anything I'd done, and that's kind of my mode. Is that every project is very different, which I think can be bad because I don't seem to have a style. At least I don't perceive myself as having a style that's super recognizable. But I kind of like that too. I like that I can kind of shift around and change the art and the storytelling to suit the story. It's every new project is sort of a reaction from the last one, and it's all about for me it's like a game. It's about setting up new rules, whether it's a grid or what I'm drawing with, setting up those parameters. I really enjoy sort of making up rules to get myself moving on something, and eventually I break those rules, but it's a way for me to get moving.
You mentioned that with your projects, whichever one you're working on is a reaction to or maybe a swerving from what you had previously been doing. Now, say, with your earlier books like The End of the Fucking World and what Celebrated Summer, how were they points that you wanted to swerve from in terms of Revenger?
Yeah, so I drew Celebrated Summer first, and those pages were pretty big. There's lots of cross-hatching, and it's the book's only like 100 pages. It took me a good while to do, and after like getting through that, I was just I was really burnt out. And my friend Max de Rodriguez, he's a Belgian cartoonist. He was doing this mini comic called Moose that he was selling for $1, and he would just do them every month. And I was like, hey, it kind of dawned on me like how valuable that can be. It was the stakes are much lower. You work fast, and Max. He was kind of sort of a mentor to me, and he taught me the value in keeping moving and not being too precious about your pages, and sort of believing that the next page you do is going to be better, and you get better and better, and that you don't want to like. It's not always the best thing to labor over a page because you can get stuck in a rut and not finish anything, which I've definitely had that problem in the past. So like after Celebrated Summer, I started The End of the Fucking World as 8-page mini comics that I did every month, and it really loosened me up. It let me have a lot of fun, and it was probably the first work that I got a really big reaction to, and I think that's a big lesson for a lot of artists. I think when you stop sort of worrying about your audience. I'm not a big audience guy. It needs to be. I need to have an interest in it, and it needs to be fun for me. But that's when you get the best reaction out of people. I think people really, they relate better to work that speaking to yourself than sort of trying to like please an audience or something. So yeah, that was sort of a reaction to Celebrated Summer. It's much looser and sort of based on newspaper strip styles like Popeye and Charles Schultz stuff. Yeah.
Now you mentioned the end of the fucking world. Now, Fantagraphics later this year is going to be coming out with a new edition of that book. And I mean, how did this come about? How did this new edition?
Well, there's going to be a TV show made.
So that was the instigating.
Yes. So I've been wanting it. You know, the first printing in 2013 kind of got sold out really quick. And you know, the margins in comics are tough. So getting a second printing is, you know, not always in the cards. But this TV show thing, it's been in the works for like 6 years, and it's actually happening. They're shooting right now in England, and it's a co-production between Channel 4 and Netflix. And so, of course, they're like, yeah, we'll do a new edition, because hopefully, you know, that'll sell us a lot of books, and it'll be around a good while. So, yeah, that's they recently, the production flew me over to England to see a week of the filming, and that was a very surreal, wild experience. You know, you see like this crew of 40 people working on this thing, and then they finally roll camera, and you hear sometimes, you know, you hear lines that I wrote alone in my room, and it gave me a weird feeling in my body. And yeah, it was wild. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be cool.
When will the series be available?
It's going to air in England in October this year. I think October 2nd, the first episode will go up. And then 90 days after that, it'll be on Netflix worldwide. So I'm guessing around January it'll debut.
We'll see it here at the States in January.
Yeah. Or you can BitTorrent it in October.
Off the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, now let's talk a little bit about your new project, because I think issue number 2 of Slasher is about to come out. Is that correct?
It just came out this Wednesday, so.
Oh, okay.
Just came out. Yeah, just hit stores.
So how is this a next step from Revenger?
Revenger, it's sort of a step back towards the feeling of the end of the fucking world, but more using some of the lessons I learned on Revenger. So it's less of an action book and more. It's more of, you know, it's a violent book. It's sort of watching a woman kind of turn into a bit of a serial killer type character, and I call it my psychosexual thriller. It's like my version of like a early '80s Brian De Palma movie type feeling. He's one of my favorite directors. So
I was thinking about Natural Born Killers.
Oh yeah. Maybe it's more in that vein. I'm never a good judge, or I'm never a good explainer of my own work. I feel like other folks always get a better take on it. It always takes me a few years to look back on it once I finish it to sort of see what I was doing, or what I was going for. Yeah.
Well, how many issues are going to be in the Slasher series?
It'll be 5 issues. It's published by Floating World Comics, and we'll have a collection done by the end of the year. Probably, you know, in bookstores everywhere. Yeah.
Well, Charles, thank you very much for talking with me in the Comics Alternative. We love your work, and good luck with the rest of the con.
Thank you very much.
Andy and I are sitting here with Darren Neely. He is the creator behind Chase Van Bolt, and we were just introduced to this title the other day when Darren came up and talked with us at our table at HeroesCon. First and foremost, Darren, hey, nice talking to you.
Thanks for having me on the show. Yep, thanks for joining us.
Okay, so if you introduced the title to me and to Andy, do the same for our listeners, please.
Chase Van Bolt is a reimagining of Johnny Quest, but with a female lead and more historical perspective.
Okay, so what elements of Johnny Quest, maybe that you grew up with, particularly appealed to you that you wanted to bring that experience into your own comic?
Well, I grew up in the 70s, and Johnny Quest, of course, was still in rotation on Saturday mornings and after school and all those places. And even then, the technology in Johnny Quest was amazing, right? The hovercrafts, the jetpacks, the video, walkie-talkies, all that technology was amazing even 10, 15 years later. And so I know those are important elements that people associate with Johnny Quest. So if you were looking to recreate the spirit of Johnny Quest, you'd want to include and comment on those elements.
So, your characters. Who are the characters? Who are the main players here?
Sure. The title character is Chase Van Bolt. She's a child adventurer. She grew up living on an island with her parents. Her parents were both scientists. And as we looked at doing this, the way to approach it and kind of comment on it was to put it in historical perspective and to put a little bit more reality into it. Something like when you look at something like the Battlestar Galactica reboot or something like that, where you kind of create a little bit more cause and effect for the elements that are in there. So looking at it from that point of view, a one-stop shop scientist that was a physicist and a medical doctor and all these different things Dr. Quest seemed to be able to do seemed a little bit unrealistic. Plus, it gives you a lot more story potential and a lot more interaction potential to have it be a colony of scientists. And then if you look at the Cold War setting of Johnny Quest was produced and first put on the air in 1964. So at that point, we were in the Cold War. So it had these Cold War elements that we see as Cold War elements now. They just seem like a mix of adventure and contemporary elements when the show was produced. And so now we can comment on that Cold War element to it, and how the Cold War turned out can be a part of the story as well. So bringing all those elements in, adding a little more grounding to it. That's kind of where it came from. So Chase became a child. Back to the original question. Chase became the child of scientists' parents. Why were there scientists living on an island? Well, it turns out that her father, Dr. Van Bolt, was a creative marketer, somebody a little bit like a Steve Jobs, where there's some skill underneath the hood there, but there's also a little bit of showmanship and a little bit of panache and agenda. And so he, minor spoilers, on page 4, he convinces President Kennedy that making it to the moon is not the actual goal of the space race. Sort of the question of what happens next. And if you don't stay on the moon, then the Russians will be the ones on the moon. And so he makes this case for this. And so this colony is established. Dr. Van Bolt becomes the head of the colony, and he is recruiting people to join the scientific collective on the island. So then you have sort of a high adventure setting there. It's obviously very similar to Johnny Quest, but we brought in some additional elements to kind of ground it a little bit.
So in addition to Chase and her dad, how's the cast round out?
So we have Vicki Van Bolt, Chase's mother. She is an early days computer programming expert, and that's based on some historical characters that I found in my deep dive. You know, these kind of projects where there's a historical element to it. You can lose yourself in click holes of information on the internet. And so her mother was a scientist as well. There's another scientist who came from an electronics company in Japan. And his son, Tomo, becomes sort of the sidekick to Chase in her adventures. And then there's a monkey. So originally,
Got to have a monkey.
If you know the history of Johnny Quest, originally Doug Wildey wanted it to be a monkey that was the sidekick, but there was some politics at Hanna-Barbera, and there's some conflicting stories as to why, but it turned out to be this dog that wasn't even designed by Wildey and the other team members. It was made more as a marketing element. And he had always wanted it to be a monkey because of the story possibilities of it being a monkey. And I agree with that. So we have a monkey.
So you replaced Bandit with a monkey.
Yeah. And the monkey's name is Sputnik.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's appropriate.
Sputnik is a test monkey from one of the labs on the island, and Chase has an affection for Sputnik, so she keeps liberating him from the test lab and gets in some hot water for doing that throughout the story.
Is there a Ray Spannon analog too?
There is. His name is Rex Garrett, and he is actually assigned by the CIA to protect the island in the wake of the Kennedy assassination.
And
so
it's
they realized.
it's Rex, WRECKS, right? Not
Yes.
REX.
It's a nickname from his days in the military. So he was actually his backstory that we will touch on eventually. Again, I guess more spoilers is that he was actually involved in the invasion of Cuba and was a CIA operative after serving in Korea. In his military career. So he's an experienced guy, and the CIA puts him there to be sort of a head of security for the island.
Well, on the topic of Rex, RECKS, one of the things you were introducing us to the other day was the humor that is in this book. And I wonder if you can speak a bit about how you've tried to make Chase Van Bolt have, I guess, a feel of an old, perhaps Silver Age comic with the ads and all.
Right. So the way the story is structured, you have a framing story that we find Chase facing middle-aged, unable to settle down, and she finds herself in danger again, and an old friend returns, and she finds that her father is not dead, but he's been kidnapped, and she sets out to try to find who's trying to kill her and find her father and reunite her family. And in the process of this, we get flashbacks along the way. So the flavor of the 90s story is more of a spy thriller, kind of globetrotting spy thriller type of thing. And then the flashbacks are high adventure flashbacks to when she was a kid and they went out and they tested a new plane and there was a giant scorpion that attacked them. Or they were kidnapped by someone. And this is a good example where some of the villain characters aren't just a sort of a villain of the week character, but they actually relate to him. So one of the villain characters is actually Tomo's grandfather, who tries to kidnap him for reasons that are explained in the story. So that grounding of the high adventure pieces, individually they stand alone. But when you look at them in aggregate, they're going to tell a story, and there's going to be a progression to those flashbacks. So they can be enjoyed as a snack. You can just hop in and enjoy that little high adventure piece by itself. And you're fine. It's just like you're watching 5 or 10 minutes of the Chase Van Bolt cartoon show that never happened. But if you look at them together and you look at them with other flashbacks that tell more detail of that backstory, you start to see a series of events that has created some consequences.
Yeah. Now what you were just describing, I mean, these are, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it the side stories, the shorter pieces you have collected individually. Like I'm seeing one here, Tale of the Scorpion, and the ones that are in color, and they are ancillary adventures or tales to the main book that you also introduced us to, which is in black and white.
Yeah, the main book is in black and white, and it contains the 90s story as well as the flashback elements. The flashback elements tend to be small, bite-sized pieces, 6 to 8 page pieces, and we pulled those out and made those into mini comics. So we actually have some sort of artistic treatments of those stories, sort of like movie posters based on the episode title. And so you get that as a cover, then you get the mini comic, and then sometimes you get extra content, whether it be development, concept art, thumbnail types of things, or in some cases they're faux ads that are actually extended content that will eventually make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the faux ads part, I mean, that gets to what I was asking about earlier, the humor, in the sense that you're trying to anchor this not only in a fantastic world of your creation, but also in an era of comics history that is reminiscent of the Silver Age.
Absolutely. I mean, it was the story actually starts in 57, and it quickly moves on to the early 60s and the establishment of the island. And so I've tried to be authentic to that period in terms of the art and finding art partners to work on this with me, and just the tone of it and the detail of it to be a more lighthearted adventure that doesn't require a ton of explanation. There's a giant monster, and we're going to deal with it and move on. But as time has gone by, just like the world, right? Things have gotten a little more detailed, a little more gritty, and so the 90s story finds a little bit more grit, it finds Chase maybe questioning, should we have been running around doing that stuff? Is it okay to just fly into someplace and maybe shoot up the town in the process of what you're trying to do? Is that okay or not okay? And so that's really what the 90s story shows us, is the consequences of those exploits in the 60s. So you kind of get both elements. And as far as if you see us at a convention, we offer the main book, which is the entire story in black and white. So volume 1's available of that. And then 2 of the high adventure mini comics are available. One is called Tale of the Scorpion. The other is called Trapped on Tiger Island. And those are available too. So if you'd like to consume it as just a high adventure cartoon hit, you can do that for animation fans, or you can dig into a deeper dive and a spy thriller kind of noir, at least in cosmetics, noir kind of story in the 90s story. And it, bundled with the mini comics are also some mini prints. They're concept boards similar to the Hanna-Barbera concept boards that were developed during shows, the Toth and all those development things you see online. So we made our own versions of those for season 1 of Chase Van Bold. And so the idea is that as volume 2 and 3 are produced, there'll be additional mini comics and additional character boards, and we'll tell a whole and complete and satisfying piece as an animation story with the mini comics and the prints, and then there'll be the main story with a little bit more edge in the 90s.
So you talked about people being able to pick this up at the shows that you do. How's your HeroesCon been so far?
Oh, it's been really great. It's actually my first time to Heroes. I'm from Kansas City, and it had been on the bucket list. I've been trying to dabble in indie comics for right at 10 years now, and of course those first couple projects take a long time to get figured out. And so this one's moving a lot quicker, and I found the chance to come to Heroes, so it's really been kind of checked off the bucket list here to make it to Heroes and share it with new fans. And there's so many pros at Heroes. I mean, it's so much about the art community being in Heroes, and it's been great to share with that as well.
Well, where can our listeners who aren't attending HeroesCon find your title?
Sure. Chase has a fan page on Facebook. So if you go to Facebook/Chase Van Bolt, just all run together like that, you can like that page, and you'll see progress updates, imagery as the art's coming in, or as we're making appearances. Those will be listed on there as well.
Okay. So Facebook/Chase, that's CHASE, and then Van Bolt, VANBOLT. That's one word, Chase Van Bolt. And they can find out more about the comic. They can get in touch with you, and they can order copies.
Absolutely. From that, you can message me through that page, and if you're really interested and we can juggle the shipping, then we can definitely get a set of the prints and books out to you as a package.
That's great. I mean, you stopped by yesterday, I guess, or the day before. It's all a blur right now, and dropped some copies off, and I'm really grateful for that, because this was a lot of fun, and a fun book, and Johnny Quest is like right in my wheelhouse. So I always love seeing people build on that sort of adventure story. I mean, the way you described being in a Johnny Quest back in the 70s is definitely my experience too. So I was really excited to see what you were doing with this, and so I appreciate you dropping this off for us to take a look at. Sure. And I'm glad we could get an opportunity to talk to you about it, because it is a great project, and I really hope you get a lot of attention with it.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun, and all the feedback so far has been very positive.
Great.
Yeah. And Darren, thank you for coming over and talking with us at our table here at HeroesCon. Maybe we see you right across the aisle, but you made the walk all the way over here to talk with us at our table.
I'll go to any length.
of 10 feet.
Yes, exactly. It's really nice to meet you guys. And I have to say, podcasting is definitely an element that got me through learning those indie comics ropes, finding shows, finding creator interviews. It's been a big part of the process, so it's a privilege to be on the show. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us.
I'm here at the table of Chris Sheridan. He is the mind behind Motorcycle Samurai, which we've discussed on the Comics Alternative not once, but twice. Chris, how has HeroesCon been for you this weekend?
Yeah, it's been great. This is my first show. I'm Seattle-based, so it was nice to come over to the East Coast and try something else out. I've heard a lot of good stuff about this show, so getting in and hang out. A lot of creators, a lot of fans, and a little more space to move and to talk and spend some time. So it's been really, really great experience.
You know, it's interesting to hear you say this, you being a first-timer here. I think most of the people that I talk with at HeroesCon have been here at least once before, but this is brand new. Now, you're Seattle-based, so you don't get out to the East Coast for cons often.
No, I don't. So I think I've only done New York one time, and that was coming out as part of the panel for Motorcycle Samurai when it was kicked off. So, yeah, it's good. It's a good chance to explore a little bit and connect in person with some people. So, yeah, it's something I've been trying to get more in out of the Northwest area. They're great shows, but just to kind of start to do a little more. So, yeah, it's been great.
So it's something you would consider coming back to next year or the year after?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to come back. It's great. So,
do you feel that you're in a pretty good location? You're here on the edge of Indy Island, but you're toward the back, or at least compared to the entrance of the hall. Do you feel like you got a lot of traffic that generates interest?
Yeah, it seems to be pretty good. It's a good flow here, and everybody seems to be coming by. Lots of kids, as you can hear, and yeah, there's plenty of room to walk, and it seems everybody's coming by in good attitude, and I don't think anybody's missing anything in the back. I think it's getting good traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, well, good. Well, you know, let's talk about what I initially knew you for, and that is Motorcycle Samurai. As I mentioned, and as listeners of the podcast know, we've discussed this a couple of times. A few years ago, we did a special episode on digital comics, and so we discussed the first few issues of Motorcycle Samurai then. And then, what was it, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when the print edition, that first trade or the first volume of Motorcycle Samurai came out from Top Shelf, and we discussed it on that episode. I think it was a Top Shelf spotlight, if I'm not mistaken. Was it then?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it came out. We got to talk about it when it was still coming out in the digital, and then finally when it was printed and collected, which I think was about 2 years ago. Time's definitely flying by. It's hard to keep track. Yeah, that sounds right. And yeah, collecting it. There's some aspects that are different, building it from the digital to the print version, and I think you guys kind of touched on that and delved into that in a way that was really interesting, and good to hear some feedback on it, and also just kind of think about that process as well.
Now, when you originally conceived of Motorcycle Samurai, did you think of it primarily, maybe even only, as a digital comic with no interest or much of an interest to have it come to print?
Yeah, I definitely thought of it pretty much as a digital exploration. They had talked about the possibility of getting it collected as print, but it was partnering with Chris Ross. This is the digital editor that brought it into Top Shelf, and it was the first collaboration between Top Shelf and Comixology and their Guided View Native. So it was something that I really wanted to delve into. That experience and that technology was something I hadn't really done, and I have a film background, so there were elements of the storytelling that you could build out specific moments and find more in there than just than you would just see in a print version. You don't miss anything, I feel like, in the print, but the digital version definitely gives you a chance to breathe and kind of have a little atmosphere, have a little beat. And the storytelling aspects are a little different because you control them when you swipe, so you kind of control the cadence and you can build up this experience that's a little different than when you're reading traditionally on a page.
You know, it's interesting to hear about your background in animation. I mean, it definitely shows in the digital Motorcycle Samurai. And I have to tell you, I think that you have handled the digital platform really well in that, I mean, there are a lot of digital comics, and there's nothing wrong with this, that are just static but digital versions of what you could find on the printed page. And that's fine. No problem with that whatsoever. There's a place for it. You use the format in ways that allows you to do some digital, to do some other effects in ways that make it a unique experience, which really plays upon what digital could offer without going overboard. In other words, you're reading Motorcycle Samurai, at least when I wasn't thinking, he's really employing as many bells and whistles as he can. And I really dislike that. When people do, exploit minor effects that you could get and kind of pile them on. You don't do that at all with Motorcycle Samurai.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was definitely something I thought about in terms of the building the beats and where those things naturally would occur and finding elements that you could pull out and expand upon and kind of slow that moment down and help build some tension or some humor or something like that. Yeah, definitely was something when it went to the print version, it was sometimes problematic. There were things in there, like there was a fireworks sequence that it just plays out traditionally in the print version, or there's, you don't get the same feeling of wind moving and some papers rustling, or when he's kind of making coffee, the different stages of it. But it just felt like an opportunity to build those moments out more than kind of just play with it. So it felt like it was story-driven, and I think I tried to lean on that when looking at, okay, when am I going to build out a different kind of sequence? So, I don't think you lose it in the print, but I think that you just gain something in the digital format.
So now that first volume is out, and it's been out for about a couple of years now, I mean, was the reception of that to the point that you think, future stories in digital will come to print?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot in that process. That was the first full graphic novel that I did, and the exploring it that way gave me definitely changed the structure of the way that I work. So I probably would build it for print and then build out elements on top of that, like build those moments out that would be for digital. I did a lot during that time because it was a slow process. I would fill out chapters in between with kind of one-off sequences or one-off stories. So there's a free comic book day issue, Christmas issue, and then a Hanukkah issue just came out this last year. So it's something that I've been doing, but I haven't kind of got back into a full next book. So it'd be nice to kind of get back into that space and come back to those characters. I guess I just needed a little time or figure out a different avenue to get back into it. But yeah, it's something those characters in that world are really enjoyable, and it feels like there's a lot there. So happy to get able to kind of get back into it.
Well, talking about those one-off stories with Motorcycle Samurai, you were showing me earlier, I guess is this out now, or is it about to come out, a actual print comic book of Motorcycle Samurai?
I did one. Yeah, I did print out a few for the show, so that's show exclusive, but there's going to be another digital chapter coming out, kind of similar to the free comic book ones. Free Comic Book Day or the Hanukkah or the Christmas issue. So they're kind of small chapters. It's probably the print version, I think, is 24 pages maybe, but the idea is probably to start to sequence both kind of one-off titles that could be kind of put together into a collected version, and also to start to build out another full arc of the series. So yeah, getting back into it, so it's good. You got a little preview of it.
Yeah. Now, we've been talking about Motorcycle Samurai, but you have another book that's about to come out from Top Shelf, and that is Space Bat.
Yes, absolutely. Space Bat's actually something that's been around for a while. I kind of was working on it, I think, when I was finishing up Motorcycle Samurai. It's an all-ages book, and it definitely helped me kind of bridge to the end of Motorcycle Samurai, and I kind of re-explored the color palette. Space Bat is really limited color palette. It's pretty bright and vibrant, and so I definitely think that influenced kind of how the last chapter of Motorcycle Samurai played out, in that it was pretty monotone, and I think that's sort of the palette I've been exploring since then. So in terms of when it fell in the creative process, it's probably a pretty big bridge to what I'm doing now. It just hasn't been collected. It ran with Thrillbent for a little while. The first chapter came out, and then there were some changes at Thrillbent, and so that I never really pursued anything else with it. And so it'll be great to actually see it in print in the first time it's fully available. So yeah, it's an all-ages tale about a space bat and some fugitive kids out to save the universe against some dastardly folks.
Now, I'm sitting right now behind your table. Did I see that you had something about Space Bat up here at the table?
Yeah, same thing like this, that Motorcycle Samurai that I gave you. I have a couple posters here that are giveaways, and then I did collect the print version. I did just one off myself, self-published, and I've had them at different shows over the past few years. Just depends if I bring them or not. But so yeah, there are four issues, so it's going to be about 128 pages when it's all collected. And so there's some preview copies are here for folks to take a look at, and it's been a good response. People seem to be into it, so it seems like it should be good. It'll be fun.
When will the Top Shelf book come out?
It should be August 23rd, so it's in previews right now, and folks can talk to their local comic shop about it.
Yeah, and I remember we highlighted that on a preview show maybe a month or two ago, and this is something that I can almost assure you that we'll talk on the Comics Alternative on some program. Because it's all age, I'm thinking that Gwen and Paul, who do the Young Reader series, they may want dibs on that one. And I think it'd be right up their alley. But again, it's something that Andy and I could talk about on the regular review show easily enough. So this is, it's a different kind of book from Motorcycle Samurai.
maybe a little more pliable in terms of readership.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, Motorcycle Samurai is a very specific thing, and I think just understanding my visual style and where people gravitate or what people gravitate towards, definitely including having the free comic book day issue that came out that was in print before the collected version. There were lots of kids that came in. People were interested in the cover, and depending on the age group, I kind of had to say, it might not be the right fit. It's not that it's wrong for them. It just maybe it might be a little. There's probably some cussing and not quite as open. But so yeah, Spaceback I think takes a lot of fun, absurd things, and I feel like Motorcycle Samurai has that kind of humor and that energy in there. It's built for everybody to be able to read. So I still think it's pretty quirky and a little weird. So that stuff's still in there for Spacebat. But yeah, the idea that my nephews can read it and I don't have to hear about why I swore in there is a good thing. It's safer.
Okay, so you have Motorcycle Samurai, you got Spacebat. Are there any other projects that you're currently working on?
Yeah, I have a couple. One is actually going to be coming out through Comixology later this month called The Dark County. So it's another all-ages book. It's sort of a...
Dark County?
Yeah, Dark County. It's over here. I'll show you one of the print versions. Female protagonists fighting some robots and exploring a strange world that's powered by dark matter. So it's kind of a little bit of everything that I kind of want to have in there. There's robots and weird monsters, and she's got a energy motorcycle. So I don't have to draw any tires, which is pretty good in this one. Those wheels are hard to do. So that'll be out through Comixology later this month. And then next year I have a kids book coming out through Penguin and Sasquatch Books, which is a regional publisher in the Seattle area. And it's Sasquatch and Lumberjack are start as strangers and end as friends, and it's 4 and up books. So that's been kind of fun to work on. It's a little different process, basically just doing splash pages the whole way through. So it makes it a little easier to get through a full book versus a full graphic novel. And so stylistically it's a little different visually, but I think it's recognizable. And it was definitely a lot of fun to work on. So I'm hopefully be able to do some more of those.
Okay, so the books that when they come out, our readers can find those easily enough on Amazon or wherever they get their graphic novels or comics. But I guess the best and most efficient way of finding your comics is through Comixology, right?
Yeah, that would be. They're all going to be on there. I think everything is digital at this point, and there's probably more on Comixology because there's several specific things. I did another book called Troublemakers, which is with my niece and nephews about them getting superpowers, and there's probably going to be some more of those, and that's just a digital one as well. It just seems that's definitely a space that I'm comfortable with, and Comixology is a good partner to kind of go through for those. And Comixology you can go to for sure.
Okay, and if people wanted to visit you, not necessarily to get the digital comics, but to find out about your profile and whatnot, do you have a website?
Yeah, I do have a website. It's my full name, but it's probably easier to find me via my Twitter handle, which I've just updated. So it's at CRIXSHERIDAN. There's a number of people out there with the full name Christopher Sheridan or Christopher J. Sheridan or some other versions, including an artist in Seattle that's the same name. So it seemed like it might be a good time to make a switch. I didn't ask him if he wanted to change his name. I just thought it'd be easier for me to switch it up. So
what a nice guy.
Yeah, so you can find it through Twitter, and then it'll link to my website.
Chris, it was really nice to meet you, and it's funny because earlier today, Andy and I were talking about one of the big pleasures of coming to someplace like HeroesCon is meeting creators whom we've reviewed in the past, but we've never yet met. So now, you're one of those guys. We've talked about your books in the past. Now we get to meet you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for the time.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, that's one of the great things about Heroes is it is a creator show, and you can get to interact with all these people that you either knew through Twitter or through their books, and it's a very calm and friendly environment. So it's great to be here and great to get to connect.
Well, good luck with the rest of the con.
Thanks, you too.
I'm here with Shawn Pryor. He is the writer, the creator of several titles, and I'm not familiar with. He's going to introduce me to these, including Cash and Carrie, Kentucky Cashew, and Force. So, Shawn, how has HeroesCon been for you this year?
HeroesCon it's been very successful for me. I set a sales goal for the weekend in the hopes to reach it, and I reached it, and I've surpassed it. So it's been fantastic. The people here are very nice. The crowds are very thick and fluent, and there's people that want all types of original works, not just like fan stuff or like stuff from like the Big Two or Big Three. So it's nice to be able to have like original creations out here that are doing well and are being put in the proper hands and hopefully passed on to like their kids and so forth and so forth.
Yeah. So congratulations that you made your sales goal.
Thank you.
Now, okay, tell me about some of these titles that I'm not familiar with. And one of the things that I think initially caught my attention, and you started to tell me about before I turned on the mic, was Cash and Carrie.
Yes, Cash and Carrie is about two middle school students, Dallas Cash and Inez Carrie. They're best friends, and together they solve mysteries. Originally, back in 2015, I did a Kickstarter for a single-issue comic, and it was very successful. Kickstarter was very successful, and we parlayed that single issue the following year, like in November 2016, into a full-fledged original graphic novel. And I wanted to make a book that was very inclusive. A lot of brown and black kids don't see themselves in books, especially as youth. So I wanted to be able to do that and make it an all-ages book. And so, because we don't have enough great all-ages material, and I want to help push that next generation of all-ages material out there. And and show people that representation matters, and also have fun while reading it.
Yeah. Now you mentioned starting off with Kickstarter. Is this self-published or Action? Is it Action Lab?
Yeah, it is currently being published by Action Lab now. When I first started the endeavor, it was self-published. Yes.
Okay, that's great. And so you have the first volume out, which Book 1, Sleuth 101. This is an all-age title, and so our listeners can find this. Through Action Lab. But what about some of the other works that you have here? I'm looking at Kentucky Kaiju.
Kentucky Kaiju. It is the definitive guide to the monsters of the Bluegrass State. Over 50 double-page spreads of really cool monsters that may or may not have existed or resided in the state of Kentucky over the decades, drawn by Tracina Bowling and Justin Stewart. And I wrote all the biographies for all the monsters. It's published by Apex Book Company. It's also available on Amazon. It's available on the Apex Book Company website. And like with Cash and Carrie is also available on Amazon as well.
Okay, and then Force.
Force. This is a football drama, a sports drama comic. Me, Jay Reed, and B. Alex Thompson. We did a Kickstarter for this back in November of 2016, and it was successful. It gave us enough money to produce a first issue. And it's a story about a quarterback by the name of Terrence Wright. He plays for a team called the Tennessee Boxers. And he's playing in the biggest game of his career, but there's also all these things outside of the game that can affect his future, from dealing with his agent, from being in a relationship with the CEO of the Tennessee Boxers franchise. There are like all these things. Like he's on the last year of his contract. He's playing in the biggest game of his life in the hopes of getting that final one big contract that he can then walk out like after 2 or 3 years. But will all these things that are happening off the field affect his future? Okay. And so, like we wanted to do like a TNT style drama, so you can have some sports action, but also have like your soap opera type interaction stuff, but make it for ages 12 and up. And we don't have like a lot of sports comics in America. There's a lot of manga sports comics, but not American sports comics. So I want to change that.
I was thinking the same thing as you were saying this about there is quite a bit of sports manga, but when it comes to, let's say, Western, specifically North American comics, not that much in terms of just straight out sports. And I'm impressed. I mean, this seems to be like a more reality-based narrative and not something with, let's say, a fantasy or sci-fi twist. So it's not like, a young basketball player who's tempted by some fantastic fairy from opening a bottle to do something, right?
Right. No. This is just straight up sports drama. Like it's based in realism, period. And like I've been wanting to do a book like this for years. And to be able to work with B. Alex Thompson and Jay Reed on it, absolutely amazing. It's been a wonderful thing.
Well, from the titles that you were telling me about, specifically Force and Cash and Carrie, it sounds like you effectively use Kickstarter as a springboard into larger projects. And so I'm assuming that this is something you're going to maybe continue to do?
Yeah, when I can. Kickstarters are pretty strenuous, and, there's not only having to hype and promote your Kickstarter over a vast period of time, but then the whole fulfillment process, but then also at the same time making sure that you're able to get the book done on time so you can then get it printed and then fulfill all your rewards and make sure all your backers get what they need. So, like, it can be very strenuous on you, so you kind of got to pace yourself with it.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that your titles can be found on Amazon, but if someone wanted to find out more about your work, the kind of comics that you do, where can they go online or through social media to find you?
On social media, you can find me on Twitter at Shawn R. Pryor. That's at ShawnRPryor. You can also find me, if you go to crowntakerstudios.com, there's a section that says Shawn Pryor Creator. Click on that, and you will see like all the books that I've worked on over the years as well.
Well, Shawn, thank you for introducing to me and our listening audience your titles, Cash and Carrie, Kentucky, Kaiju, and Force. So good luck with the rest of HeroesCon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Alison Sampson is the artist most recently of Winnebago Graveyard, and I think that first issue just came out, right?
Yeah, it came out on Wednesday this week, and sold out by lunchtime, but it's still around somewhere and gone back to reprint. And do you want me to tell you what it's about?
Sure, yeah. Inform me and the listeners.
Okay, well, what it's about, it's a family that, like you and me. They're in their holiday clothes. They're in their Winnebago on holiday in the Southwest, and they go to a creepy fairground to alleviate tensions in the van, accidentally get their van stolen, and get stuck in a town full of Satanists, and it's what happens next. It's a Steve Niles book. What do you think happens next?
Yeah. So, Steve Niles is known primarily for the horror genre. Was this the first time you worked with Steve?
Yeah, it is. The book's taken quite a long time to come together. I mean, the way we started was, he said, I think I wanted to work with him almost simultaneously. He approached me. It's sort of a two-way thing. And he said, do you want to do Monsters in Space or Satanists in Texas? And I was like, Satanists in Texas. And then he sent me an outline, and then I did about 4 big illustrations where I drew the settings and the kind of characters and, sort of Chrissy with her kind of tight denim and all of that. And then I sent that back, and then he wrote the script. So it's kind of... we've sort of done it together. I mean, I think we're very much on the kind of same page with what we're trying to achieve with the book, which is basically we're going back to our kind of formative years for him the 70s, me a bit later. And I'm from this kind of quite remote area, and my reading matter, my young person teenage reading matter was this van that came round all the farms, and it's basically lowest common denominator reading. So it's kind of pulp horror and really old school sci-fi and these really kind of smelly books. And so basically this is what we want to introduce to the next generation, where it's like we want to give them our experience of as a quite young person reading quite extreme horror. Basically, a lot of extreme horror is read by teenagers. Mm-hmm. It's a way of exploring boundaries in a safe space, and it's like what people are doing. We think of it also as like this is the book they're not really supposed to have. For a young teenager, it's maybe the one the parents don't really want them to read, but they can kind of get maybe, and because it's a teen plus, but a lot of people would say perhaps not, but. We want teenagers to read it because this is what people do. I made it for my nephew, and him and his friends. They're all reading all these kind of film magazines at school, and they know everything there is to know about, Italian horror films or this kind of gross stuff. And it's like, this is for them. It's not actually for me with them. It's for them with each other.
And so for this series, it's going to be. Is it 4 issues?
It's four. I was going to say meaty, dense issues. Steve has quite a lot going on, so I think probably by the end that will be quite enough.
Right, and I think a lot of his series are limited in that way. And I'm thinking when you were describing the premise to me, I couldn't help but think of Lot 13, which came out a few years ago from DC.
And I think also a book like Freaks of the Heartland, where it's a very clear story with a beginning, a middle, an end, a solid location, and these very sort of human characters, where really it's about the human relationships. And that's what, Steve himself would say is, what he does is he takes a group of humans, sets up a relationship, puts it under... it's already got some fractures in it, and then puts them in a situation under strain and sees what happens. And that's what's happening here. It's ostensibly a horror, but it's really about people.
Right.
And for example, again, talking about teenagers, you might not do a book about when boys cry, because that might be too obvious and they might not read it and you may not connect. But what you can do is say, if you were in this situation, how would you feel? And then... maybe like this. and a 13-year-old, they're not going to kind of tell anybody or admit to kind of, any weakness perhaps. But it's like, he needs his mum. And that's kind of, we can make that the sort of the personal space between the reader and the book is an entirely personal space, and they can have it there. And so I think that's one of the big strengths of Steve's writing is he's addressing. He said he thinks of himself as a child still, and he's addressing his readers as himself.
So tell me a little bit about the collaborative process. I mean, does he have a mostly fully formed script, or did he have a mostly fully formed script and then come to you, or was there much more back and forth between you, the artist, and him in terms of the story, or even the art for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say he just gave me a script and then I drew it, but actually it wasn't quite like that. As I say, he did an outline, I did some art which fleshed out the structure, then he went away and wrote a script, and I quite like quite a concise script. So I then drew the first issue, and then he saw that, and then he changed how he was writing it. And so it's a lot of landscapes, a lot of vehicles, a lot of big spaces where I'm using all the page. And then I drew that, and gradually it's kind of evolved. And then when I finished the second book, I went out to see him at his house, which I think was a really nice thing to do, where I actually got to meet him in person. And he showed me around the area where the book is set, and we were talking. And this is actually why we're on the same page with the book, because it's like we were talking, and it's like I said, "This is how I see it," and he's like, "Yeah, I do too." And so he's responded to the art he's got. It's taken quite a long time to do. So it wasn't he gave me a script and I did the art. It was he gave me some script, I did some art again and again and again and again. So it has moved together. But also, it's like, I know he's a really, really good storyteller, and I'm not going to mess with that. Yeah. He's got it.
And is that the process that you try to do with your other works, that there's more of a back and forth between artist and writer? Or it just vary from writer to writer?
It varies from writer to writer. I mean, I've been very lucky with the writers I've worked with, where largely they've all been very experienced. I mean, people like Fred Van Lente, he knows what he's doing. And I have done different things than he's asked for, and then he's pointed out to me how that doesn't work, and I'm like, oh yeah. And so sometimes I learn not to change it too much, but as I say, with this thing with Steve, I do what I need to do. There is the story, but if you can't see the person who's speaking, how are we going to do it? So I think about the whole book. I mean, it is an image book, we aren't working with an editor. It's not mechanical. If it's not right, I have to make it right. And that's how we do it. So it's a certain amount of correction as you go along. He's been really, really, really great. Like, he's never asked me to change anything, and he's never said anything less than that's amazing about the art.
Well, speaking of your collaborations, we have discussed your work on the Comics Alternative before, a few years ago with Genesis, when that came out, and that was a larger, thicker one-shot with Nathan Edmondson, and we discussed that on our show.
Yes. Well, that was quite a long time ago, and it was also my first big comic, kind of, and it was quite a difficult situation because What actually happened was what I didn't realise when I started the book was Nathan hadn't finished the script, and I got to the end of the script I had, and then there was no more script, and that was kind of a shock to me, because I realised that it wasn't looked at holistically, and then I had to kind of fight to get the rest of the script, and that took quite a long time, and it was the voice had changed, and anyway, I carried on drawing. I drew a book I didn't understand effectively, and I still don't understand. But I do trust the author's voice, and that's what we're doing. I'm not going to mess around with what somebody's doing if they've got an intention. So we did that, and people liked it. It's a very popular book. I mean, people have got a stack of them on the table today, and people buy them, and it worked well. It's a strange book, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and, it's beautiful art, just as it is in the first issue of Winnebago Graveyard. And, I strongly recommend that our listeners, if you haven't already gotten a copy, definitely head out and get the first issue of Winnebago Graveyard. Alison, thank you very much for talking with me in the Comics Alternative. I've had a good time.
It's a pleasure to meet you at last.
Yes. Got to meet you in person. It's great.
I love your podcast. Thank you so much.
So there you have it. My conversation with Fabian Rangel Jr., Charles Forsman, Chris Sheridan, Shawn Pryor, Alison Sampson, and then my and Andy's conversation with Darren Neely. I want to thank all those guys for taking the time and talking with us for the Comics Alternative. And I want to especially thank creators like Chris and Allison who listen to the podcast and who let us know at HeroesCon, hey, I like what you guys do as well. In fact, there were quite a number of creators who came up to us and said that they listened to the podcast, and we really appreciate hearing that. In fact, we enjoy meeting all of our listeners, whether they are comics artists or not. Had a great time at this year's HeroesCon, and if you want to find great comics like the kinds produced by some of the people that we were talking with on this episode, then you have to head over to the website of our sponsor, which is Discount Comic Book Service. Go to dcbservice.com, and there you're going to find a ton of specials every single month. That's dcbservice.com. And after you do get your titles there, get in touch with us and let us know what you're going to be reading. If you go to our website, comicsalternative.com, you'll find that you can leave us a voice message online via SpeakPipe. Or you can call us the old-fashioned way by picking up the phone and dialing 415-3-COMICS. That's 415-326-6427. You can also email us. We are 2guys@comicsalternative.com, or you can email me directly. I'm Derek at comicsalternative.com, and Andy is Andy at comicsalternative.com. You can find us all over social media, such as on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Google+, Goodreads, Pinterest, and YouTube. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can also find us on TuneIn, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and on Google Play Music. But you can find every single one of our podcast episodes, as well as the reviews and comics-related commentary that we post on our blog, simply by going to our website, which is comicsalternative.com. We've got more podcast episodes generated at HeroesCon this year coming up soon, so be sure to listen up for those. Until then, I'm Derek. Take care.